Hey guys, how you doing? Hope you're well. It's Alessio. Now, a few days ago on Thursday, I asked my friend Zak Mir, who's actually a fantastic chart analyst, someone with great experience in charts and in trading. I asked Zak an important question about Bitcoin, which I think you'll find quite interesting. So here's the video, guys. Here's the question I asked Zak, and I'll come back in a few moments and tell you what I think about his answer. My question to Zak in this video simply is this. Bitcoin, Zak, in 1 year, in 12 months, 2020, do you see Bitcoin 100K, 2K, or maybe same place we're at right now? No change. I don't know.
I go for the no change. I think probably over the last 3 years we've got, we had the 2K, we've had the 20K. I think somewhere in the middle is about right for now, unless there's a big breakthrough. So 8 to 10,000, I think, is the fair level. If there was a reason for it to break higher, I think we probably know about it. There'd be some situation where the stock market crashed and it looked great by comparison, or there was a technological development, or the Federal Reserve said, yeah, we're going to change from dollars to cryptocurrencies, something like that. But that would, that scenario, for instance, that ridiculous scenario would only happen, let's say, if there was a financial meltdown of some kind or whatever it is. And as I've said before, I think we've just got over 3 months or 4 months to go to break the curse of the one crash every decade since the 1920s. So we haven't had one this decade. We've only got a small window left now for a crash to come through, and that may be the time when Bitcoin shines.
Yeah, actually, before I ask you some more questions about Bitcoin, Zak, I guess the question pretty much everybody's wondering right now who's watching this video is, what is that unusual thing behind you? What is that, by the way? Is that a pipe? Is that like a bong?
No, it's actually. Yes, it could be that. It could be both of those things, but actually, it's a copper lamp, and I can't actually remember what it was before, but it's a converted copper something, which is now a lamp.
Right.
But I'll have to find out from my sources for the next time. But I thought I would take it away because it's a photobombing me. But I think it's probably better. It's probably better to look at that than look at me. So I would go with that.
I mean, my first impression when I saw it was, I thought, wait a second, is that a shisha? A hook? What is it called? They call it something different.
Yeah,
shisha. Galloon. I forget what it's called. Go ahead.
Well, I think it would be one hell of a shisha if it was a shisha. That's all I can say. The industrial one.
Okay, so let's go back to Bitcoin again. Slight diversion. Let's go back to your point, what you were saying before. So that's quite a brave call you're making there, Zak. That a year from now, Bitcoin will probably be nowhere different than it is right now, about 8,000 in this range. So you're saying, essentially, am I correct? You're saying you think it's going to be stuck in this range maybe for some time, 8,000 to what?
I think we've just got to.
For the next year, 12 months?
Pivoting around 10,000. Remember also that 200-day moving average is very low. It's still only just above 6,000. And so in a way, the market has to take up the slack. It's a bit like gold now. It's so far away from the 200-day line. Even if it's going to go, and even gold's going to be, 2,000 or 3,000 this time next year. For 2-3 months or longer, it'll have to take up the slack of being so overbought near term and having made such a big move. And I also think you've got the issue that the more successful Bitcoin becomes, the more you get a regulatory stamp down on it as well. So that makes it, it becomes a victim of its own success. So you had the Facebook maneuver, and they're going to, then you had Zuckerberg, in Congress or whatever, he's facing panels. It's like the Spanish Inquisition. That is because the authorities really don't want Bitcoin to succeed. It would be a disaster. They don't want
Bitcoin to succeed, the authorities. By authorities, you mean like
central? If Bitcoin succeed, if Bitcoin succeeds, central banks fail.
Oh, right,
You can't have that. You just cannot exist. It's just basically, it's like the dinosaurs at the end of Jurassic, seeing rats and other things like that. I mean, you couldn't have both at the same time. It was just like that. The mammals came in, the dinosaurs had to go. There was no way. I mean, and this is the same thing, that you can't have. Bitcoin is, when it works properly, when it's fully fledged, You won't need money anymore. You won't need fiat currencies. You would have one international currency, and why the hell, you wouldn't be interested in anything else. So that's the problem. It is
Okay.
an existential threat to the financial system.
So I mean, if this bull market continues, let's imagine this bull market continues then, and we break above the previous highs we made near 13,800 then. Do you see Bitcoin going up potentially then to, what would be your target? Let's put it that way. What would be your long-term target? I'm talking about the 5-figure higher number or 6-figure.
No, I think if everything goes well, as it should, probably on a 3-year view, you would have, let's say, 50,000. But I can't. The problem is, from my point of view, in 2017, when Bitcoin was going through the roof, they brought in futures on the CME or CBOE, whatever it was, in order to kill that market. They just rushed them on.
Actually, I agree with you.
They rushed them on, and they're still doing that with gold. Gold is almost certainly controlled by the gold futures market. You've got the China, etc., China, Russia, etc., buying it, but hoarding it rather. But miraculously, the price is it's hardly gone up at all. It's still it's just where it was 7 years ago. So the alternatives to fiat currency are literally in they're in the firing line as far as the governments and banks are concerned. Even the real estate is also, in the UK, it's going to be completely killed by stamp duty. Property used to be a store of value, but you've got to pay 10% stamp duty, and then when you die, there's 40% inheritance tax. So basically, there's no store of value other than money.
I see your point there. Do you see a case for 100K on Bitcoin? Because I've heard people say 50K. I've had people say this to me as well. Say, oh, 50K is conservative. 50K is nothing. 100K is the real figure. What do you say about that?
I think that if there's any value long term to go for, it would be 100K would be a fair price. But that will require engagement, and that will require a change from the paradigm we're in now. It's a bit like the real estate market 40 years ago in London. You could buy a house for 50K or 100K. Now it's 10 million. So there has to be a change of perception, and a general one. It has to be easy to buy, easy to get Bitcoins, easy to contactless. It's got to be this. It's got to be all the things that the money is and more.
Okay, thanks, Zach. Thanks for that.
All right, guys, as you heard there, Zach gave a very interesting and quite an unexpected response when he answered that question about whether Bitcoin is going to go to 100,000 or 2,000. So his expectation is that by next year, perhaps by the next 12 months, we probably won't have changed much as to where we are right now. In other words, Bitcoin will be in this kind of range, sideways range between 8,000 and 14,000. Now, the question is, do I agree with him on this point? Well, here's one thing I can say. Zach certainly has a lot more experience in trading and chart analysis than most people. He's been in this business now for many years, for decades, in fact. So I do certainly respect his point of view. I respect his opinion. He might be right, who knows? But the bottom line is, I feel that I have to perhaps disagree with him on this point. And the reason I disagree with him is because I think that by the end of this year, I think by the end of 2019, perhaps in just the next few months, by November and October of this year, I think we're going to find out pretty much what Bitcoin plans to do. In other words, I think by the end of this year, by December of 2019, I think we're going to find out whether Bitcoin truly wants to continue the bull market higher. In other words, whether Bitcoin is going to finally push higher above the 14,000 level and move on to 20,000, 30,000 and higher, or whether it's going to actually break the support level. Support level is about the 6,000 to 5,000 level, in which case, if that support level gets broken, especially if it breaks 5,000 to 4,500, if it breaks that, then very likely it's going to go back into some kind of a bear market and move back towards the 3,000, 2,000 levels. Now, I'm not saying that Bitcoin is going to do that. I'm just saying that I think we're going to find out what Bitcoin wants to do by the end of the year. Either we're going to find out it's going to continue the bull market, or we're going to find out it's going to go back into a bear market. Okay? Now, as to which of these scenarios is going to play out, honestly, we don't know. Nobody knows. I think it's important to consider both of these scenarios and take them seriously. either the bull market continuation scenario higher towards 14 and 20,000 and 30,000 higher, or the bear market scenario, in which case Bitcoin could potentially take out the 6,000 to 5,000 levels of support. If it does that, then very likely it's heading back to 3,000 to 2,000. So I think in the next few months, all I'm saying is in the next few months, by the end of the year, we're going to find out pretty soon what Bitcoin plans to do, and which of these scenarios is the more likely one. In any case, whatever happens is going to be quite interesting. And guys, by the way, make sure you do check out Zak's Twitter feed. Please do follow Zak on Twitter. He posts some fantastic stuff there. His Twitter handle is @Zak'sTradersCafe.